Picture this. I'm nestled into the corner of my worn-in couch, the kind of spot that's molded to me after years of lazy evenings. It's late. The kind of late where the world outside feels like it's holding its breath. The golden glow from the table lamp spills across the living room of our suburban home just beyond the city's restless hum, painting soft shadows on the walls. Crickets chirp faintly through the cracked window, their rhythm blending with the quiet of the house. I'm Leona, by the way, 38 years old, and I'm sitting here, wrapped in a throw blanket, feeling like I'm about to share something with you that I've only ever whispered to myself. This home, this life, it's mine and Harrison's. We've been married for 12 years, and if I had to describe him, I'd say he's the kind of man who carries a quiet intensity, ruggedly handsome in a way that sneaks up on you. His face is all sharp angles and kind lines, but it's his presence that gets you. He listens, really listens, and somehow you end up feeling like the most important person in the room. We've built something rare, Harrison and I. Not perfect, mind you, but real. A happiness stitched together with late-night talks that stretch until dawn, adventures that leave us breathless, and even arguments that somehow end with us laughing, tangled up in each other's arms. Trust is our foundation, the kind of trust that lets us bear our messiest truths without fear. Oh, and there's Kieran, too. Someone from Harrison's college days who's drifted back into our orbit recently. I won't say much about him yet, just that his name has started popping up more often, a shadow from the past I'm still figuring out. I can't help but think back to a weekend not long ago, when Harrison and I escaped to a little seaside cabin, the kind with creaky floors and windows that rattled in the ocean wind. We stayed up until 3 a.m., sprawled on a lumpy couch, a bottle of cheap wine between us, our bare feet brushing under a scratchy blanket. We were debating life's big questions, fate, purpose, all the heavy stuff, our voices low and raw from hours of talking. At one point, he turned to me, his hazel eyes steady and searching, and said, "We're not like everyone else, are we?" I laughed, a little tipsy, a little in awe, and nodded. No, we're not. In that moment, I felt the weight of our bond, something unspoken but solid, like the tide pulling at the shore outside. It's those moments that define us, the ones that remind me why I chose him, why we chose each other. Even in the everyday, there's magic. Every morning before he heads to work, Harrison leaves me a handwritten note on the kitchen counter. Sometimes it's silly, a doodle of a stick figure us holding hands, or sometimes let me take you to a quiet Tuesday evening, the kind where the day's chaos has finally settled into a soft hum. I'm standing in our kitchen, the heart of our home, where the air still carries the warm, comforting scent of garlic and rosemary from the chicken I roasted for dinner. The dishes are done, stacked neatly by the sink, and the faint clink of a spoon against a mug echoes as I tidy up the last bits. Harrison is there, leaning casually against the counter, one hand wrapped around a glass of red wine, the deep crimson catching the light from the overhead fixture. He's in a faded gray t-shirt, his sleeves rolled up just enough to show the strength in his forearms, and there's a relaxed ease to his posture. But beneath it, I sense something else. Something I can't quite name yet. A subtle tension that prickles at the edges of the moment. We're talking about the usual stuff, the kind of chatter that fills the spaces between bigger thoughts. I mention a project deadline at work that's been eating at me, and he nods, tossing in a quip about how my boss should just promote me already. I laugh, rolling my eyes, and then I bring up a friend's birthday party coming up next weekend, wondering aloud if we should get a gift together or split it. He shrugs, takes a sip of his wine, and says something about how we'll figure it out. It's all so ordinary, so familiar, that I almost miss the shift when it happens. Suddenly, he goes quiet, his gaze drifting somewhere past me, like he's looking at something only he can see. I glance over, curious, and notice his fingers tapping against the glass. A quick, uneven rhythm. That's not like him. Harrison's hands are usually steady, deliberate. My stomach does a little flip, though I'm not sure why. I'm about to ask if everything's okay when he looks at me, his hazel eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that catches me off guard. His expression is unreadable, a mix of hesitation and something deeper, something that makes the air between us feel heavier. Then, in a low, almost careful voice, he says, "What would it feel like if I asked you to do something completely different? To trust me fully, to push the edge?" My breath hitches. I don't know what I was expecting, but it wasn't that. My mind scrambles for context, for some clue as to what he's getting at, but I come up empty. A nervous laugh escapes me, more out of instinct than humor, and I say, "What do you mean by that, Harrison?" I'm hoping for a quick explanation, something to ground me, but he doesn't answer right away. Instead, he reaches into the pocket of his jeans and pulls out a folded piece of paper. A letter by the look of it. Without a word, he holds it out to me, his hand steady now, though his eyes are still searching mine. I stare at the folded letter in Harrison's hand, my heart thudding so loud I swear he can hear it. The kitchen, once a cozy haven of familiar smells and sounds, now feels like a stage set for something I'm not sure I'm ready to face. It's later that night, the house wrapped in a heavy stillness, broken only by the faint tick of the wall clock above the sink. Each second seems to stretch, dragging out the tension that settled between us like a thick fog. My fingers hesitate before taking the paper, trembling just enough that I notice it, and I wonder if he does too. The edges of the letter feel rough against my skin, and as I unfold it, I catch a glimpse of his familiar, slightly messy handwriting scrawled across the page. It's Harrison's, no doubt about it, and that alone makes my chest tighten. I start reading, my eyes scanning the words, but my mind struggles to keep up. He begins by mentioning Kieran, his old college buddy who's been through hell lately with a messy divorce. I remember meeting Kieran a handful of times. Quiet, kind, with eyes that always seemed to carry a weight I couldn't quite place. Harrison writes that Kieran's been lost, struggling to find his footing, and that he felt compelled to help. My brow furrows as I read on, and then I hit the line that stops me cold. Harrison explains that he reached out to Kieran with a proposal, a night with me, but only if I'm willing. My breath catches in my throat, sharp and sudden, like I've been punched. I read the words again, then a third time, hoping I've misunderstood. But there they are, stark and undeniable. A night with me. The paper shakes in my hands as the weight of it sinks in, each syllable echoing in my head like a drumbeat. He goes on, his words careful and deliberate, emphasizing trust, freedom, and the idea of exploring something beyond the rigid boundaries we've always known. He writes that this isn't about betrayal or coercion. It's about choice, about pushing the edges of what we are as a couple, about giving me the power to decide. He insists that the decision is mine alone, that he'll respect whatever I choose, no questions asked. I can feel my pulse racing as I finish the last line, my mind a chaotic storm of thoughts I can't begin to untangle. I look up at Harrison, who's standing across the room now, near the doorway to the hall. He's watching me silently, his face a raw mix of vulnerability and resolve, like he's laid his entire soul bare and is waiting to see if I'll shatter it. His hazel eyes hold mine, but I can't find the words to break the silence that stretches between us. It's suffocating. This quiet, heavier than anything I've ever felt in this house. I don't speak for what feels like an eternity. My mouth opens, then closes again, as if the right response is just out of reach. Inside, I'm a mess. Shock hits first, a cold wave that numbs me from the inside out. How could he even suggest this? Then comes confusion, a dizzying spiral of questions with no answers. What does this mean for us, for our marriage? Is this some twisted test of loyalty, or is it really the freedom he claims it to be? Anger flickers in next, hot and sharp, burning at the edges of my thoughts. How dare he put me in this position, to even think I'd consider something so far outside everything I've ever known? But then, as the seconds tick by, something else creeps in. A strange, unexpected curiosity. What if I did say yes? What would that feel like, to step into something so unthinkable, to test the limits of who I am? I've always prided myself on being open-minded, on embracing the unconventional in small, safe ways. Harrison and I, we've never been the cookie-cutter couple, and I've loved that about us. But this feels like a line I never imagined crossing, a door I didn't even know existed until now. My thoughts drift to Kieran, to the man behind the sad eyes and quiet demeanor. Why him? The week that followed that night in the kitchen felt like a lifetime, each day stretching out with a weight I couldn't shake. Harrison and I moved through our routines like actors in a play, going through the motions with a kind of mechanical precision. Morning started with us at the breakfast table in our bedroom, the soft light filtering through the curtains as we sipped coffee and passed the butter for toast. We'd exchange small talk about the weather, a news headline, whether the car needed an oil change, but the letter, that folded piece of paper now tucked away in my nightstand drawer, sat between us like an uninvited guest. Neither of us mentioned it, yet I could feel its presence in every pause, every glance that lingered a second too long. I'd catch Harrison watching me sometimes, his hazel eyes searching for something I wasn't ready to give, and I'd look away, my stomach knotting with a mix of guilt and uncertainty. When I wasn't at home, I sought out places to be alone with my thoughts. There's this little cafe a few blocks from our house, a cozy spot with mismatched chairs and the constant aroma of freshly ground coffee beans. I'd sit there for hours, tucked into a corner booth with a notebook in front of me, scribbling down whatever came to mind. Page after page, I tried to unpack the storm inside me. Why I felt so torn. Why the idea of saying no felt just as terrifying as saying yes. I wrote about Harrison, about the trust we've built over the years. I remembered a time a few years back when I lost a major work contract, a blow that left me feeling like a failure. I came home that day, tears streaming down my face, and Harrison didn't say a word. He just pulled me into his arms, held me tight against his chest, and let me fall apart without judgment. That memory stuck with me as I sat in the cafe, the pen trembling in my hand. How could I doubt a man who's been my rock through every storm? But then my thoughts would drift to Kieran, and I'd find myself piecing together the fragments I knew about him. I remembered a barbecue at a mutual friend's house last summer, the air thick with the smell of grilled burgers and sunscreen. Kieran was there, standing off to the side with a beer in his hand, his smile polite but distant. I'd noticed how his eyes seemed to carry a quiet sadness, a lingering shadow from his recent divorce. He'd been through so much, Harrison had told me later, and I could see it in the way he held himself, like someone trying to find their place in a world that had shifted under their feet. There was a gentleness to him, though, a softness in the way he'd thanked me for passing him a plate, his voice low and sincere. Sitting in that cafe, I wondered what it would be like to know him beyond those fleeting moments, to see what lay beneath that guarded exterior. By midweek, I found myself at a park near our neighborhood, perched on a weathered bench under the shade of an old oak tree. Kids laughed on the playground in the distance, their carefree shouts mixing with the rustle of leaves in the breeze. I watched the world go by, joggers with earbuds in, couples strolling hand in hand, a dog chasing after a frisbee, and I felt so detached from it all, like I was living in a parallel reality. My mind kept circling back to Harrison's proposal, to the idea of stepping outside the rules I'd always lived by. What would it feel like to be truly free, even just for a night? To let go of every expectation, every boundary, and just explore. The thought sent a shiver through me, equal parts dread and something I couldn't quite name. Was it excitement? Curiosity? I didn't know, but it was growing, slowly overtaking the fear that had gripped me at first. I spent hours on that bench, lost in thought, questioning everything. Was I considering this for Harrison? To prove something to him? To show that our trust could withstand anything? Or was it for me, a chance to uncover some hidden part of myself I didn't even know existed? Maybe it was neither. Maybe I'm driving down a winding road, the headlights of my car cutting through the dark as I head toward the rented house. A modern cabin tucked away in a secluded spot, surrounded by towering pine trees that seem to guard it from the rest of the world. My nerves are electric, buzzing under my skin like static, and my hands grip the steering wheel a little tighter than necessary. I've spent days wrestling with Harrison's proposal, turning it over in my mind until I thought I'd go mad, and now here I am, actually doing this. The decision wasn't easy, but it was mine, and that's what keeps me moving forward, even as my heart races with a mix of anticipation and uncertainty. When I pull up to the cabin, the dim glow of lights spills from the windows, soft and inviting against the inky night. I step out, the cool air biting at my cheeks, carrying the sharp scent of pine and earth. My boots crunch on the gravel as I make my way to the door, each step feeling heavier than the last. I pause for a moment, my hand hovering over the knob, and take a deep breath. Whatever happens tonight, I remind myself, it's on my terms. Then I push the door open and step inside. The warmth hits me first, wrapping around me like a blanket after the chill outside. The interior is all sleek lines and modern touches, with a crackling fireplace casting flickering shadows across the room. The air smells faintly of wood smoke and something earthy, grounding me as I take it all in. And there, standing by the window with a glass of water in his hand, is Kieran. He turns as I enter, and a small, genuine smile curves his lips, not forced, not overly eager, just real. His voice, when he speaks, is calm and unassuming, like we're meeting for coffee instead of whatever this is. "Hey, Leona, I'm glad you came." There's no trace of expectation in his tone, just a quiet sincerity that eases some of the tension coiled in my chest. I notice Harrison isn't here, just as he promised. This space, this moment, it's just for Kieran and me, and that realization both comforts and unnerves me. We settle on a plush couch near the fireplace, a safe distance apart at first, the cushions sinking slightly under our weight. The fire pops and hisses, filling the silence as I search for something to say. But Kieran beats me to it, starting with something light, asking about my drive over, commenting on the quiet beauty of this place. His ease surprises me, and before long we're talking, really talking. Not about why we're here, not about the weight of Harrison's letter, or the unspoken questions hanging over us, but about everything else. We reminisce about old times, stories of Harrison from college days that make me laugh harder than I expected, picturing my husband as the reckless, idealistic guy Kieran describes. He tells me about his struggles after the divorce, his voice dropping low as he admits how hard it's been to rebuild, to feel like himself again. There's a rawness to his words, a vulnerability that catches me off guard, and I find myself opening up too. I talk about my own fears, things I've barely admitted to myself, how I worry about aging, about losing the spontaneity that's always defined me, about becoming someone I don't recognize in the mirror. Hours slip by like minutes, the conversation flowing so naturally that I forget to be nervous. The space between us on the couch shrinks, not deliberately, but as if drawn by some quiet, invisible pull. Then, in a moment of stillness, when the fire has burned down to glowing embers and our words have tapered off, Kieran reaches for my hand. It's a slow, tentative movement, like he's giving me every chance to pull away. I freeze for a heartbeat, my breath catching, my mind racing with 1,000 thoughts at once. But I don't pull back. His fingers close around mine, warm and steady, not demanding anything, just there. It's such a simple touch, but it sends a rush through me, something I can't quite name. Freedom, maybe? Or something deeper? I'm standing at the threshold of our home, the familiar creak of the front door echoing behind me as I step inside. It's early morning, the kind of hour where the world is still waking up and soft sunlight streams through the kitchen window, painting golden streaks across the worn wooden floor. The air carries the faint scent of last night's dinner, a comforting reminder of normalcy, but my heart is heavy with uncertainty as I linger in the doorway. I've been gone all night, out there in that secluded cabin with Kieran, and now I'm back, unsure of what awaits me. My fingers tighten around the strap of my bag, a nervous tick as I brace myself for the weight of Harrison's gaze, for the questions I'm not sure I can answer, for the judgment I fear might linger in the silence. I see him before he sees me. Harrison is sitting at the kitchen table, a mug of coffee in his hands, steam curling lazily into the air. His face is unreadable at first, shadowed by the angle of the light, and for a moment, I can't tell if he's angry, hurt, or something else entirely. My stomach twists, a knot of dread and anticipation, as I take a tentative step forward. I'm ready for the interrogation, for him to demand details or explanations, to ask where I've been or what I've done. But he doesn't. Instead, he looks up, his hazel eyes meeting mine with a quiet intensity that stops me in my tracks. Without a word, he sets the mug down, the soft clink against the table, the only sound in the room, and stands. He crosses the small distance between us in a few deliberate strides, and before I can say anything, he pulls me into a long, silent embrace. His arms wrap around me, strong and steady, and I feel the warmth of his chest against mine, the steady rhythm of his heartbeat grounding me in a way I didn't expect. I'm caught off guard, my breath hitching as the tension I've been carrying starts to unravel. He doesn't speak at first, just holds me there, and I let myself sink into it, the weight of the night lifting just a little. Then his voice comes, low and soft, a whisper against my ear. You're even more beautiful than yesterday. I feel it in you. Those words break something open inside me, a dam I didn't even know I'd built, and I feel the tears prick at the corners of my eyes. I break down a little, overwhelmed by his acceptance, by the way he sees me, not as someone who's crossed a line, but as someone who's grown, who's still his. I bury my face in his shoulder, letting the quiet sobs shake me, and he just holds me tighter, no judgment, no questions, just us. Over the next few days, I start to notice subtle shifts in the way we are with each other. It's not dramatic, not some grand overhaul, but it's there in the small things, the quiet moments that stitch our days together. We touch more, our hands brushing as we pass in the hallway, his fingers lingering on my waist when he pulls me close for no reason at all. Our gazes hold longer, like we're seeing each other anew, peeling back layers we didn't even know were there. Our conversations take on a new rawness, a willingness to say the things we've always felt but never voiced. One evening, as we're washing dishes side by side, the sink full of soapy water and the clink of plates filling the air, he turns to me and admits he was scared I'd come back different, that I'd look at him and see something less. I stop, my hands still in the water, and tell him I was scared too, scared I'd lose us in the process. But standing there, shoulder to shoulder, I realized this experience didn't break us. It reset us. It stripped away the unspoken fears, the doubts that had crept in over the years, and replaced them with something deeper, something stronger. I'm not going to lie to you. I liked it. That night with Kieran, the way it unfolded, the way it made me feel. It's as if we had discovered a new language, one that spoke of trust and understanding, binding us closer than ever before. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment if you enjoyed this story. This will help us create more engaging stories for you.